Blessed Sunday to you, my dear friends in Christ. Today is the fifth Sunday in Ordinary Time, Year A. Today, Jesus continues the Sermon on the Mount, which we call the Beatitudes. We see a sort of shift from the general to the particular. Jesus is no longer talking to just the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the scribes, the SNS, but Jesus is talking basically to his disciples. And that's why he uses the second person pronoun. He says you. It means me, it means you. Jesus is talking to us, in particular terms today. And Jesus uses two metaphors, the metaphor of the salt and the metaphor of the light. Let us remember that the ancient Greeks believed that the salt has a divine nature. Why? Because they see salt as having a special origin and also special functions. Now let's look at the four major uses of salt, especially in the ancient times. The first one is that salt is used during ritual sacrifice, because the Jews believe that as salt is necessary for food, so also God is necessary. And again, as salt is necessary for food, so also only God can give taste to life, because salt gives taste to food. The second reason, or the second use of salt, is that when a baby is born newly, the Jews apply salt on the body of the baby. Why? Because they believe that, the salt is very necessary, and the salt is like the soul of the human person. So that when you remove the soul, the body decays. So, as salt is important in the food or necessary, so also is the soul important in the human body. Now, let's look at the third use of salt, which we call, for preservation. Salt is used to preserve meat, to preserve food. Why? From decomposing, from decaying, from corruption. The fourth use of salt, my dear friends in Christ, is that salt is used as a seasoning. Yes, that's the one we know better, because we use salt to enhance the taste of the food. We use salt to, support the food, to make it become palatable, to become, very masarap. So these are the four uses of salt. Now, but there's something that we must think about today, my dear friends in Christ, which is the fact that the salt in the container is useless. The salt becomes useful when it comes in contact with the food, when it's mixed up with the food, when it is involved in the food. Now, let's look at the three qualities of salt, my dear friends in Christ. The first quality of the salt is that the salt, refers to purity. Remember that the salt is white in color. In the same way, when Jesus calls us the salt, Jesus wants us to live a pure life, especially in our world that is full of, moral decadence, all kinds of low standards. People are lying, people are living all kinds of immoral life. Jesus wants us to be the salt in the society, because he wants us to live a pure life, that everyone will look up to us and say, yes, that guy is a disciple of Christ. The second quality of the salt that we may think about as Christians is that salt is used as a preservative agent. As Christians, we must also live this kind of life to preserve the values of the kingdom among the people around us, but basically even from ourselves. So, the quality of salt as a preservative is that we should always preserve the values, the gospel teachings, that it doesn't experience corruption or experience decay. The third quality of the salt is that it lends flavor to life. There are many people who are experiencing hopelessness. There are people who are experiencing torture, torments, frustration, crises, trials. Yes, as Christians, we are supposed to be the one to restore hope in hopeless situation, to bring peace in violent situation, to bring mercy in a place where everybody is saying, I will not forgive, I will not forgive. So, this is why, the first reading today talks about charity. That if we are charitable to people around us, God will bless us. The responsorial psalm also says the same thing, that God will be our refuge. He will be our protector. He will be our shelter if only we extend helping hand to other people. Living the life of Beatitudes is really what it means to be merciful, to be peaceful, to show love. This is what it means to be the salt of the world. My dear friends in Christ, the question that comes to my mind is, how can we be the salt in our relationship? Yes, we can be the salt in our relationship by giving taste to our relationship. There are so many relationships that are almost like very bitter, very pait. But we can put a sort of taste, flavor in our relationship by buying gifts, by sending text messages, by spending quality time devoid of, put away all the cell phone. By remembering the special days in the life of our loved ones, like birthdays, anniversaries, and all that. We can make our relationships to work. And I would like to conclude my reflection by saying one thing. In the Filipino language, salt means asin. And I ask myself, what is the meaning of this asin as an acronym? Asin means always say interesting, nice things. By that, we can become the salt to the people around us, because good words can bring healing. That's why St. Paul tells us today in the second reading that we should use our time, our talents to touch the lives of people around us. As we celebrate this Sunday, my dear friends in Christ, let us go out of ourselves. Let us move out from ourselves to touch the lives of other people. May God bless you.